Saltzman, Novick,
Here.
Fritz,
Here.
Hales, Fish.
Here. Quorum is present. Carla, would you please read the time for
Agenda item 651, appeal of Keegan Flanderka, Works Partnership Architecture against the Design Commissioner's interpretation and enforcement of Section C2, promote quality and permanence in development, specifically in regard to the proposed exterior cladding material located at 910 East Burnside Street.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. As you may have already guessed, I am not Mayor Hales. Mayor Hales is in Washington, D.C. doing God's work. As the President of the Council, I'm going to be presiding. This is a heavily scripted proceeding because it's a quasi-judicial proceeding. And at times like this, we turn to our esteemed council to make sure that we do it right. And we're going to go through the ground rules. We're going to see if anyone has anything to declare. And then we're going to go right into the hearing and we'll go through the rules. So we'll start with our esteemed council.
Thank you. Okay. This is an on-the-record hearing. This means that you must limit your testimony to the materials and issues in the record. For an on-the-record appeal hearing, we'll begin with staff report by the Bureau of Development Services staff for approximately 10 minutes. Following the staff report, the City Council will hear from interested persons in the following order. The appellant will go first and will have 10 minutes to present its case. Following the appellant, persons who support the appeal will go next. Each person will have 3 minutes to speak to council. Council will hear from persons who pose the appeal. Again, each person will have 3 minutes. And finally, the appellant will have 5 minutes to rebut the presentation of the opponents of the appeal. The council may then close the hearing, deliberate, and take a vote on the appeal. If the vote is a tentative vote, the council will set a future date for the adoption of findings and a final vote on the appeal. I'd like to announce several guidelines for those who will be addressing City Council today. Evidentiary record is closed. Again, this is an on-the-record hearing. This hearing is to decide only if the Design Commission made the correct decision based on the evidence that was presented to it. This means you must limit your remarks to the arguments based on the record compiled by the Design Commission. You may refer to the evidence that was previously submitted to the Design Commission. You may not submit new evidence today that was not submitted to the Design Commission. If your argument includes new evidence or issues, you may be interrupted and reminded that you must limit your testimony to the record. The council will not consider new information and it will be rejected in the City Council's final decision. Objections to evidence, new evidence. If you believe a person who addressed City Council today improperly presented new evidence or presented a legal argument that relies on evidence that is not in the record, you may object to that argument. Objections to new issues. Finally, under state law, only issues that were raised before the Design Commission may be raised in this appeal to City Council. If you believe another person has raised issues today that were not raised before the Design Commission, you may object to City Council's consideration of that issue. Additionally, if the applicant fails to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with enough specificity to allow council to respond, the applicant will be precluded from bringing an action for damages in circuit court. I will now turn to the presiding officer to see if anyone has any conflicts of interest or ex parte context to declare.
Thank you, and very nicely done. This is, again, heavily prescribed. There are some ground rules. Thank you for laying it out, and you will keep us on the straight and narrow as we go forward. So there's some preliminary matters which we need to address. The first, do any members of the council wish to declare a conflict of interest?
I do oversee a bureau that uses a lot of asphalt, but I'm not sure how that cuts.
Thank you, Steve. I take it that the answer is no. Ex parte contacts. Do any members of council have ex parte contacts to declare or information gathered outside of this hearing to disclose? So I do. On April 15th, I had a meeting with Carrie Strickland, who is here today. Carrie and I discussed lots of things, including homelessness, the state of design in the city, and other issues. In the course of our conversation, she mentioned that she had a matter at design review and gave me kind of a general overview of it. I have not talked to her or any party about that since, and that was before any decision was issued by design review. So I will disclose that.
I haven't had any ex parte in relation to this application. I have, however, spent the last week looking at roofing materials and getting advice on the differences between asphalt and metal and rubber and such.
So I think, Steve, Commissioner Novick, you have no ex parte contacts to disclose?
None.
Now, what do I have to then?
So now we can go ahead and start with staff report. If you disclose your
Lauren, turn your mic on.
Sorry. We can go ahead and move forward with the testimony, starting with the staff report.
I guess I'm supposed to say, does anyone have an objection based on
Oh,
any ex
that's
parte contacts that have been disclosed? Hearing none, now we'll go forward, and why don't you tee us up?
We can go ahead and start with the staff report.
Okay, welcome.
Hello, good afternoon. I am Stacy Monroe, representing the Design and Historic Review Team with Land Use Services of BDS, and I'll be doing a brief presentation for the appeal of the Design Commission decision of approval for the Jupiter Hotel expansion. So just to get you acquainted with the site and the project, the site is located on the screen with the red outline. It's at the southeast corner of the intersection of Southeast 9th and East Burnside. It's about a little under a quarter block sized lot, currently developed with a single-story building and a surface parking lot. It resides within the Central City Plan District, and more specifically, the Central East Side Subdistrict, where the East Burnside has the arcaded condition. Just briefly, here are some images of the site. This is looking from the intersection of 9th and Burnside. This is looking from Burnside to the west at the site in the background. And this is an image on 9th along the western frontage. So just briefly, some zoning context for you. The site is zoned central employment with a design overlay. A 6-to-1 FAR is allowed for the base zone with an additional 3-to-1 possible. The height limit is 100 feet with the potential of 145 through bonuses. So quickly, this is a 6-story building with 67 hotel rooms, restaurant, retail and event space, 1 large loading space, and no parking provided on site. The building tops out about 73 feet in height, and the FAR proposed is under the 6-to-1 allowed. The images on the left-hand side are renderings of the building, both taken from Burnside, and the image on the right-hand side of the screen is the floor plan, which shows the large lobby concentrated at the northwest corner of the building, with commercial space on the east end and services and loading at the south end. So the building proposed 2 materials, the asphalt composition shingle on the top of the screen. There's an image of the mock-up provided by the applicant, as well as an option for metal shingle, which was ultimately approved by the Design Commission by way of a condition of approval. So just to bring you up to speed with the process the project has gone through thus far, it began with the design advice hearing with the Design Commission back in November of 2015. The feedback provided was related to the overall design and the need to respond to the arcaded condition along East Burnside. Asphalt composition shingle was not proposed or discussed at that time. The first formal Type 3 design review hearing occurred in March of this year. Staff had highlighted in the staff report, which was not recommending approval, concerns with the asphalt composition shingle, and the Commission recommended the applicant explore a more permanent and higher quality finish, and metal shingle was suggested at that hearing. At that time, the applicant requested a continuance to continue to work on the cladding options. The final and second hearing for the design review occurred in April of this year, April 21st specifically. The applicant came back to the Commission with 2 exterior options, the asphalt composition shingle originally proposed, and the metal shingle option, which was suggested by the Commission to explore. The Commission continued to have reservations and concerns with the asphalt composition shingle and voted to approve the project with a condition for the metal shingle exterior. There were also other conditions added to the project, but they weren't related to the exterior material. On May 3rd, the final findings and decision of the Design Commission was published, and an appeal was received from the applicant on May 13th. So the project is subject to a Type 3 design review with a modification. The approval criteria that it was evaluated against were the Central City Fundamental Design Guidelines, the Central East Side Design Guidelines, and the approval criteria of Section 33825. A land use review appeal must find a nexus to relevant design guidelines or modification approval criteria. The source of the appeal today is the Central City Fundamental Design Guidelines C2, Promote Quality and Permanence in Development. The applicant states that there was a discrepancy in the Design Commission's interpretation and enforcement of this guideline. I wanted to provide you a little bit of background on the C2 Quality and Permanence guideline in the Central City Fundamental Design Guidelines. So the background statement says that the quality of building design and permanence of materials are what helps define Central City's built environment. There are numerous historic buildings within Central City, and the quality and longevity of those buildings contribute to the urban atmosphere and the quality and permanence of the area. It instructs buildings to successfully incorporate permanent materials and quality construction techniques that are appropriate for Central City's urban setting and that complement the context of the existing buildings. So over the course of the 2 design review type 3 hearings, I'm going to summarize the Commission's conclusions at those hearings. At the first hearing, the Commission agreed with staff's concerns about the potential longevity and quality of the material, which was stated in the staff report, wherein we stated the material is intended for rooftop applications where replacement is required often. Concerns about the potential maintenance and long-term appearance was unclear. If moss or other greenery grows on this material, how will it be cleaned? How will the material respond? And then there's the natural shedding of the material above the pedestrian environment. A couple of statements made by the Commission at that hearing. The asphalt composition shingle does not meet the permanence and quality level in this urban environment, and perhaps a residential application of this material may be more appropriate. The intentional building design with joint lines that are not desirable has backed the project into a corner with regard to material choices. There was a preference noted by several commissioners for the asphalt composition given the 2 materials proposed. However, they could not support it because it did not meet the permanence and quality guidelines. One commissioner had a larger concern with the building's composition and felt that the asphalt composition shingle didn't help resolve that concern. And finally, there was concern by a commissioner that it was setting a precedent for a material that future projects perhaps could not detail as well or be as appropriate as this design in this location. So the alternatives before the council today are to deny the appeal and uphold Design Commission's decision with a condition for the use of the metal shingle, or to grant the appeal and modify Condition B to allow the use of asphalt composition shingle as the primary exterior building material, or to allow a choice of either material, the asphalt composition or the metal shingle. And that's the end of my presentation.
I have a question for council and a question for staff. I'll start with council. There are only 3 of us today, and would you remind me what the rules are in terms of how many commissioners have to concur in any recommendation, assuming we get to that point today?
Yes, so council rules require 3 affirmative votes to deny or affirm appeal and quasi-judicial. So that means that you all need to vote the same way. If it appears that it needs to be continued to tomorrow, there will be 4 commissioners present tomorrow.
So that's important in terms of our deliberation. Question, are we on the clock here in some way?
In terms of review timeline, yes, the 120-day timeline ends on June 25th, unless further extended by the applicant.
And so, again, I'm not prejudging where we land because we haven't discussed it, but if we don't have a consensus today, the options would be to go to tomorrow or to seek an extension of time with the applicant?
Yes, although I believe the applicant has already indicated that they are not going to waive the 120 days.
Oh, we'll get to that. I want to make sure I understand the ground rules. And then I want to just ask you this question because I think it's interesting. It was in the bottom of an earlier slide. A commission member was concerned about setting a precedent for material. To what extent does a decision in a discrete case like this set a quote-unquote precedent that might be applicable to other cases that might come before the commission or the council?
Well, when the building's constructed, it becomes part of the context. And when other buildings start developing around the area and they're supposed to respond to the context, then they could choose a similar material. And the commissioner was concerned perhaps it couldn't be as well detailed and applied as the confidence that she had in this firm.
But I just want to be clear, was we used the term precedent in the legal context where there is an authority and it must be followed. In that sense, it becomes context which is considered by the commission, but it is not binding. Is that correct?
Correct.
And am I correct in understanding from page 9 of the decision by the commission that staff initially recommended denial on March 24th and the commissioners conferred because of the asphalt?
Correct.
And then the applicant came back and said, well, we'll use metal instead. And the commission said, yes, that's okay then.
The applicant came back with choices.
Okay,
They didn't say they would use metal. They said, these are two choices we have before you.
okay.
Correct.
And then the commission chose the metal.
Correct, but the applicant had a preference and a desire for the asphalt composition.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying.
Steve, any questions at this point?
No.
Now you can hear from the appellant.
Oh, actually, I do have a question, which is there, I think I know the answer, but I assume there's no, if the concern is about the permanence of maybe this is not the appropriate time to ask this, but if the concern is about the permanence of the material, then one theoretical option might be to say, can you insist on some sort of maintenance schedule and you'd have to replace the material if the maintenance schedule wasn't followed? I assume that that's not something that would be an option for us.
I'm assuming you could condition it. It's not an option the commission likes to take because they're basing it on the foundations of the design as proposed. We don't want to rely on some future agreement that is difficult to enforce and to follow. We'd like a building to be designed from the get-go to be a quality building. And the commission has seen a lot of materials fail over the years. There's one particular that we've seen over the past 10 years just is not wearing as well as originally thought. And I think there's some hesitation to allow a new material in that hasn't been used before, not knowing how it's going to wear in the next couple of years.
Can I follow up on that? Because you just make an interesting point. I'm just playing devil's advocate, but isn't the only way to know whether it holds up and the applicant's claims are supportable to at some point allow a building to have this material so that it can be tested? I mean, I'm assuming at
I
one
do.
point in the past, people said that a wood sheathing or a certain kind of brick or whatever had a similar limitation. Isn't sometimes the best experience, the best evidence experience?
I do agree with you. I think maybe perhaps the risk on this street, in this location, in this urban environment was perhaps not one the commission was willing to take. There was a note about it being more appropriate for a residential application. There were no examples shown in a commercial or urban application, so there wasn't much, they didn't have much confidence that this was going to be the right place to be the testing ground for that, perhaps.
Fair enough. Okay. Now we'll turn to the applicant.
The script allows the appellant 10 minutes, but you can adjust that.
I'm Carrie Strickland, one of the principals at Works Partnership Architecture in Portland, also located on Lower Burnside at 6th and Burnside. So a little of the context, like Stacy outlined, while we did receive approval from the Design Commission for the Jupiter Hotel expansion, we're here today to appeal one of the conditions of that approval. At the suggestion of Commission, we explored an alternate building material, and they approved that option. We still strongly disagree that that material is the appropriate and best option, and maintain that our opinion that the laminated asphalt shingle is the ideal material for this project. As you will hear later in my presentation, many of the design commissioners also agreed that our preferred material was the better option, but they were most fearful of setting a precedent. We are here today to ask you that you allow us to move forward with our preferred material. The Jupiter site is sitting on a corner with a fairly eclectic collection of uses and materials that have developed kind of over time. My office has actually done quite a substantial amount of work in the Century side. I think we're probably one of the few firms that we've done majority of new buildings and adaptive reuse in the east side, particularly along Lower Burnside. We find the district is very unique. It's gritty. It's authentic. There's a lot of things go. The site sits along Lower Burnside and sits in the heart of the Arcade District, which is also completely unique within the city of Portland. Those older buildings and now a handful of the new ones stretch out over the right-of-way and create active relationships to the street and provide unique pedestrian experiences that don't compare to any other kind of location or neighborhood in Portland. During our design advice request, we were encouraged to reinforce that relationship with the other arcade buildings and the other structures on Burnside. Our design takes a standard building massing and a pretty standard program and allows it to distort to build that relationship with the arcade buildings. The highly regular program of the guest rooms mix with the larger public event spaces and upper lobby spaces, and those large volumes stretch and distort the building envelope, and that creates the form. That distortion creates a strong siding of the building within the arcades district itself, and the design and massing of the building is a direct response to that district and its context. It's dynamic, it's funky, and it's gritty, and it upholds the design intent of the program and the brand that it's meant to represent with the Jupiter. Stacy hit on the plans a little bit. I'll move this through quickly. This is the ground floor that has the main lobby, retail space, loading, the second floor, which is home to the large event space, upper lobby, and an outdoor courtyard. The standard guest room levels, guest rooms kind of flank that courtyard and front the street, and there's a deck, public amenity space on the 5th floor. So why are we here? When the building massing took its shape as a direct response to that arcade overlay, it created a very unusual form for a building. It's progressive and sensual. It's eye-catching and encourages interaction. We studied a lot of building materials before getting to design commission, and we landed on that laminated asphalt shingle because of its ability to support that design direction. Its color and texture is soft, and it works well with the light in the Pacific Northwest, that kind of subtle gray light. It has the unique ability to mold around the soft angles and corners, and it's actually a highly durable and easy to maintain material. However, during that design review process, Commission asked us to review an alternative. We looked closely at the metal shingle option that came from their suggestion and created some direct comparisons. And we can kind of get into this a little bit later in my presentation, but after all the research, we came back to the asphalt as a clearly superior product, not just for kind of the facts about easy to maintain and its the ability to wrap, its texture, its grittiness. It provides a new formal language different than other projects in the area, which is really important to the program and to the brand. But it's actually kind of a better, there's less concern about craftsmanship and kind of those details of those transitions. The commission concerns were simple: the lack of permanence, the lack of quality, and most importantly, that fear that they had of setting a precedent for other projects. So let's talk a little bit about the permanence. The product that we're proposing is a laminated, fully adhered asphalt shingle. This isn't, yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful PowerPoint, very helpful. The wording and the print is hard to read.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us ask to read long enough to read further. It won't be held against you, but in the next PowerPoint, it'll be just a little
bit bigger.
bigger.
Okay,
Otherwise,
I'm trying to
it's-
hit most of the words in
We
my.
can follow what you're saying.
Okay. This isn't.
Better in the printout.
The big one? Or the little, okay,
We have a printout that's slightly easier to read.
okay. Thank you, go ahead.
Yeah. The shingle that we're proposing isn't kind of your everyday roofing shingle that you can kind of go out and get at Lowe's, or what most people are putting on their homes. It's actually a very premium product. This product has, and we'll run through some of the warranties. This product has more than a 40-year warranty, and you'll hear from Malarkey representative later. When compared to other exterior building materials that are being approved through review processes, this actually outperforms all of those materials in comparing warranties, durability, color performance, oil canning, long-term maintenance, ease of care, and the list goes on. So in this slide, our recommended material is on the left. Other typical cladding materials that are being approved are on the right. It includes kind of a backed metal panel, which has a 0 right start warranty, a 5-year lifetime warranty, limited lifetime warranty, 0 Scotchgard warranty against moss and algae. Fiber cement board or hardy board, again, it has a 30-year lifetime, limited lifetime warranty, usually on the paint itself, not as much about the material. 0 Scotchgard moss resistance and kind of the 0 kind of right start warranty for initial installation. Stucco, again, is expected, a 5 to 12-year limited lifetime warranty. Even brick, which has a 30 to 50-year lifetime warranty, there's a lot of conditions about those warranties, about tuck pointing and maintenance to joints and connections that become kind of finicky. Again, when compared to that asphalt shingle, it doesn't come close. So on top of all of those qualities, the product that we are proposing is locally produced by Malarkey. Most of you are probably familiar with them, but Malarkey has operated in Portland since the 50s. They've been at the forefront of innovation for roofing and have led many industry firsts up and down for all kind of warranties, this idea of laminated shingles that kind of reduce the little bits that Stacy was concerned about kind of falling off the building. They're the ones that invented the Scotchgard application for moss resistant, which is important for a place like Portland. They've had
This is not relevant, but the city sells Malarkey some methane gas that is captured at the Columbia wastewater facility, which is then piped to Malarkey, which is used, I think, to manufacture some of their product.
Yeah, that was actually the very next thing in my presentation. Malarkey has had a partnership with the city and BES for more than 30 years, actually, and initiated kind of that methane harvesting, and they power their plant with that methane gas. So not only is it a great product in this application, it's also a really great story. Their commitment to sustainability will play a key role in the promotion of the hotel. We've talked to them about talking about their processes and their partnerships with the city, which again, when you're marketing a hotel, it becomes pretty important that you have a good story. And it also promotes Portland's reputation for sustainable innovation as a product to hold up. To speak briefly about the quality and the design appropriateness, we come back to the material qualities themselves, and I'll read through this list. The laminated asphalt shingles is an off-the-shelf product, but it easily conforms to the faceted nature of the building form. There's no other product that we found that can do that. The fabrication and installation requires a fairly low level of skill, meaning that there's less margin, kind of a minimum margin for error. The asphalt shingle provides a consistent patterning and color and depth, again, which is important for us to achieve kind of the soft building form. It absorbs the light, minimizing reflection, and creates a new, unique texture. The corner details are clean and precise. It's very easy to accomplish. And the mock-up was actually built by Keegan, who works in our office, not a trained professional, and it went together really well. So, and you can see in this rendering, it talks about the fact that it absorbs that light, which creates that soft form instead of the stiff angles and transitions that happen with the metal panel. So this leads us to the primary concern of setting a precedent. To set a precedent is to make a decision that could be applied to a broad or general body of projects or applications. The Type 3 process is actually a discretionary process which should allow for approval of items that wouldn't be allowed in a prescriptive process. The issue of setting a true precedent actually shouldn't be a concern here in this case. The project is truly unique in every way. To just name a few, its location in the arcade district, which in turn dictates its form. cites it to a particular site. It's program of a tourist hotel, not a typical apartment building or a residential project, and not just any hotel, but the truly innovative and funky Jupiter brand. Even the design commissioners during their deliberations, as you'll hear now as I play a clip, can we keep going? We're almost running out of town.
Carla, since I asked 2 questions, would you give her an extra minute?
In the clip, you'll hear Commissioner Livingston, Commissioner Molnar, and Commissioner Ballister voice their support and/or clear preference for our proposed material. And I have this queued up here.
Famous last words with our
I know.
laptop.
Fingers crossed. Here.
Of the asphalt shingles, and I really appreciate the amount of work that the applicant put into restating the case today, and I actually like the argument that you've made, that you've put before us. But for me, it still comes down to the issue of establishing a precedent, that there is a way that we could permit this that could be so tightly constructed and so tightly scripted that it would prevent an applicant coming in next week with a proposal for asphalt shingles that is not nearly as well realized and not nearly as appropriate as it is in this circumstance. So I regret that still today I will not be able to support the asphalt shingles.
What about the metal?
You know, I actually prefer the asphalt. I mean, the metal is the way to go. I think the asphalt actually accomplishes what the applicant would like to accomplish. Yeah.
Okay.
But metal.
Don?
Well, you know, the asphalt is starting to grow on me a little bit, you know. Maybe it's after a month of looking at it. But, yeah, and I like the examples they gave out of San Diego. But I wonder how that one that was done 1993, because 91 is held up, actually. You didn't see it, did you? The green one? Yeah, okay. But I guess I would probably still opt for the metal. But, I guess I could live with the asphalt also, but my preference is for the metal, I think.
I personally prefer the asphalt. I think it achieves what you're trying to do, but I don't think it meets the guidelines, so I can't support it.
Of the asphalt shingles, and I really appreciate the amount of work that the applicant put into
I think we started to cycle. So today, we're asking that you help us pull off the best version of this project. We need your help to push the envelope and do something a little funky and daring, but something that is still rooted in careful thought and consideration and does meet the true intent of the design guidelines into the city's design review process. We ask that you help us make a statement of support for innovation and that you make a statement for the design community. Thank you.
Questions, colleagues?
Yeah, I have a question. Where's the arcade?
So the arcade is, so if you look at this image, everything that you see kind of on the left side is what's projecting out into the right-of-way on Burnside. So it projects about 9 feet over the sidewalk. So the glass line here is the property line, and that building kind of pushes out. So it doesn't have columns, but it's creating that relationship, kind of like the B-Side 6 building down the street. It creates the pedestrian cover and brings the building faces out in line with the arcade structures without having columns drop down on the sidewalk.
And why was that choice made?
Not to have columns.
Yeah.
One, architecturally, it's about kind of lifting this very kind of highly regular program off of the street. And so what you're experiencing is this kind of floating pedestrian realm that's kind of the clear inside-outside lobby relationship and retail, and that the building kind of hovers above.
So that it's basically like an awning?
The whole building is what's kind of projecting out. So this face, and I don't know if I'm doing my mouse, you can see, this whole face is actually the face of the building. So if you're standing under it, you see the soffit.
Right,
is
so that person that's walking, not the one that's raising his hand, but
This
the one
one.
to the right,
Yes.
that person.
That
Is
person
that person covered or not?
Yes, that person is covered by the building.
By the, it looks like the wall is very close to where that person is walking.
So the wall of this, which is the ground floor,
Yes,
is the property line, and everything out here is a mirrored soffit. So I'm going to get back to one of the early diagrams. So for instance, this line, so this is that glass wall that that person was standing next to, and this line is the line of the building above. And so everything out there is part of that arcade relationship that aligns with the building next door, which was the kind of the other historic arcade building. And
I'm asking the question because I'm struggling with that the building doesn't seem to fit in with the character of the district, and I'm wondering whether the metal cladding makes it just a tad less funky, as the word that you said. It just, I'm wondering if that gives the sense of historic permanence rather than the asphalt that takes it, doesn't look like any of the buildings that are there now.
right, and I think, I mean, none of the arcade buildings in that district have, I mean, I think the shingle or that material isn't what builds its historic relationship to the arcade district. I think it's the experience that you see, one, if you're driving along Burnside and you're seeing the faces of the buildings kind of come out and project, or if you're walking along the right-of-way and that continuance of kind of pedestrian cover, and that experience is what's building that relationship.
Two questions. One is, since quality has been raised as a consideration in this, is there a significant price difference between using the laminated asphalt shingle and the metal siding?
The metal shingles are slightly more, but it isn't something that's not playing a role. It's actually a pretty insignificant in the big picture difference. I think it's more about
And in terms of the district, are there other buildings in the district that are proximate to this building that have the metal shingle?
No. In fact, the building right next door, which is the arcade building where Union Jacks is located, actually has an asphalt shingle roof above its masonry line.
Commissioner Novick, any questions?
Yeah, I mean, it seems, I mean, what the commission said is that they have concerns about permanence and quality, not just about precedence. So you say that the primary concern is about precedence, but it does seem to me that the commission explicitly or implicitly sort of rejected what you say, which is actually that the asphalt material will actually hold up better and is subject to better warranties. So can you, I mean, just talk about that a minute? I mean, if the fact, I mean, as I read it, the commission didn't just talk about precedent; they were concerned about permanence.
Right. So the commission had, and if we pulled it out, the words that came up a lot were those three primary concerns. It's about the kind of quality of the material. It's the permanence of the material, and most all of those comments came back to this idea of setting a precedent because it's untested in Portland. Part of our presentation to them, and I think it's in your packet as well, is that this material, I mean, and again, we can kind of pull up, and Mark Malarkey can testify today. This material hasn't been used this way in Portland, but we did actually pull precedent projects from kind of around the country and around the world where this product has been used in a vertical application. And you heard Commissioner Ballister mention there's a project in San Diego that's a 4-story building that was built in 1991 that has composite asphalt shingle siding that's been in place since then, and it's still kind of holding. We don't have a good example for commission to look at and say we agree that this product has been used in the city and that has proven its durability for quality.
Very good. Thank you very much. Who's next? All right.
Excuse me. Did you hear me?
Pardon me?
I didn't have my microphone on, but did you hear me?
So now we're going to hear from supporters of the applicant.
I have 3 people signed up. please come on up are Kelsey Bunker, John Rabung, and John Corba, or Koba, sorry.
There's two people from Malarkey.
Yeah. Our preference is to follow whatever sequence is first, but like.
Why don't you start with Malarkey?
I'm John Raybung. I'm the sales manager for Malarkey Roofing. I'm just going to read a letter that was written on behalf of this project for Malarkey, and would love to answer any quality questions, any concerns about some of the things that were brought up as far as algae resistance, moss, sustainability. So Malarkey ownership has had discussions and personally reviewed the project mock-up and intended use of the Malarkey legacy shingles on this project with Works Partnership Architecture. And excuse me, I'm just turned 50 and I don't read that well anymore. Aha. Thanks. Malarkey is excited and looks forward to seeing our product used and installed in this innovative application. Malarkey has discussed and worked with Works Partnership Architecture to determine and ensure the proper installation and application of our product on this project. All standard warranties offered by Malarkey will be valid and honored on the products used on this project and type of installation. Malarkey is a local roofing products manufacturer headquartered in Portland, Oregon. We've been manufacturing asphalt roofing products from the same location since 1956 and have a history of sustainable practices and strong relationships with the City of Portland and BES. Malarkey has recently celebrated a 30-year relationship with BES in regards to our methane recovery project in Portland. All Malarkey manufacturing facilities are Green Circle certified. I can get into that if you'd like. Malarkey has accomplished many industry firsts and milestones, which could be found in our history brochure. And we're proud to be a local business and provide quality products and innovations to the roofing industry. This letter was written by Pat Redaway, who is our commercial sales representative for the Northwest, and Pat does report to me. Greg Malarkey wanted to be here, but he had some other commitments, so I'm his stand-in.
So what is the warranty on this product?
So it's a 50-year limited warranty with a 15-year right start, which means first 15 years everything's covered 100%, and then it starts to depreciate over the course of the years after that.
And practically speaking, how often are people replacing roofs with this product on it?
This roof, only if they want an aesthetic change. The history we've had with this product has been very positive. It's made from a different asphalt technology than standard asphalt composition shingles.
And when it's pressure washed to get rid of the moss, does it have bits coming off it like regular?
So
Asphalt.
pressure washing to get rid of moss is not recommended. What we've done is we've got an an algae blocking technology that's used, and it's warranted by 3M for 20 years. So there'll be no algae, and algae is the food source for moss. And so moss has to have something to eat and grow on. And in an application like this, you're not going to get, deposits from pine tree needles or things like that. And so the only real source would be the algae. And that's warranted for 20 years by 3M. That's why the Scotchgard designation, that's something that 3M has allowed us to use.
But then what happens after 20 years?
After 20 years, I don't know, we've never had a warranty issue after 20 years with algae or with moss. So at that point, then it would need to be taken care of in whatever standard method that would be, and that you can hose it, you can brush it, you can't pressure wash it though. But it's not something that we've experienced.
I'm just
Right.
thinking through my own.
Moss needs a food source, and a food source normally comes in the form of algae or in the form of debris, such as needles, leaves, and it's really more relevant in a very shaded condition.
So what's the green stuff that grows on my vertical vinyl siding?
That would be algae, yeah.
And how would you get? That's you saying that wouldn't happen because
That's the 20-year Scotchgard warranty that we have from 3M. That
and then
keeps
you'd have
that.
to put more Scotchgard on it.
Then you would have to, if it showed up after 20 years, which we have not experienced, then you would have to either use some, a hose or some sort of, bleach compound or something like that, but that's not something that we've experienced. Your vinyl siding doesn't have 3M Scotchgard protection on it, so.
Not
Sorry
yet.
about
Sounds
that.
like it might need to.
You guys might need to actually talk outside.
Absolutely.
I have a house. 20 years later, the roof that was replaced is still doing great. Don't have an algae problem. My house is shingle clad, and there's some shingles in the back that are exposed to the sun that are now have gone from brown to silver to black, and they're actually starting to kind of decompose a little bit. And I'm guessing at some point they just have to be replaced.
At some point, yeah. But you probably have a shingle that's composed of oxidized asphalt, whereas this is a polymer modified asphalt. So the UV is what's causing that to happen.
These are wood shingles
Oh,
inside
okay,
the
yeah,
house.
so yes,
At
that's.
some point, they just have to be replaced.
Wood's got to be replaced.
Yeah,
yes.
they gotta be replaced.
Sorry about that. I misunderstood.
Thank you very much, sir. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to continue in terms of the metal, because you see metal roofs now as well. And I was surprised to see that there was zero, the documentation said that there was no warranty on the metal. Why would that be?
I don't know, but in my previous history, I dealt with metal roofing manufacturers, and that is the case. It usually has to do with the color. And,
I think that might not be the case anymore, just based on my research over the last
okay,
week.
that could be, I didn't do the research on that shingle product, so I don't know what that manufacturer's
Right.
warranties are.
Thank you.
Sir?
There's only a couple things that I
We just
wanna
need
add.
we just need your name.
Oh, I'm sorry, John Cobo with Malarkey Roofing Products. I was going to mention the polymer modified, which we've been doing since the 70s. There's really no other shingle quite out there like that. And then patented zone design, which allows for a more accurate installation. So we give the wider nailing area. So a lot of concerns are that shim falling out, which we give almost 3 times the size of what other manufacturers give to make sure you get a decent installation, you don't have shims falling out. There are applications in a much more limited fashion than siding, and that's where you drive around and you might see mansards, which are near vertical installations that's done, but it's in a much more limited fashion, typically 6 to 15 feet, maybe at the top portion of the building before it hits the flat roof. So it's
So you're saying that this product is absolutely maintenance-free for 20 years?
Yep,
pretty much.
yep, that's the warranty, yes.
I would say the other thing is that I would match up our shingle products to any granule adhesion out there in the market. With it being a modified shingle, the standard is 1 gram of granule loss on basically a 2-inch by 6-inch piece. You put it, it scrubs it back and forth 120 times, 60 cycles. We're typically around anywhere from 1/10 to 3/10. We actually publish that we consistently hit 0.35, which is 3 times better than the standard for asphalt shingles.
So there won't be any bits falling off and getting into the stormwater?
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's 3 times better than what the
Very-
published standard
Very, very
is.
limited with the adhesion qualities of the asphalt. That's what the polymer modification allows the contraction and expansion to occur, but hangs on to those granules so they don't break loose of their pocket.
Very good. Welcome.
Hello, my name's Kelsey Bunker, and I'm one of the co-owners of the Jupiter Hotel. And I've been an owner of the hotel since 2002. I was there in the very beginning. I've done everything on the property from hanging toilet paper holders and hauling cement to currently basically just overseeing the operations. We have been really successful, which has allowed me to hire maintenance people and other people to take care of the property. But also, as we have been so successful, and we've partnered with the city quite a bit, we've had an opportunity to do this expansion, as everybody knows. And when this opportunity first arose for us, it was really important to me. I talked with my partner and asked him what was important to him in regards to this building. And the building and what it was, or what it is, or will be, is that we wanted it to represent the Jupiter and the Jupiter brand. It was really important for us. And I'm not sure, I think most of people have been to the Jupiter. And if you don't know what our branding is, we've really stood for doing stuff outside the box, for challenging the norms, the accepted, for being flexible, and also working with our community. That's been a big part of our branding and marketing, is working with local vendors and also local charities. So with that, we started to look for architects, and we were delighted to find Works in our own backyard, literally. And they have been this, as Carrie Strickland mentioned, an architecture firm that is actually, she didn't say this, but they are internationally and nationally awarded for their innovations. So we told them that we wanted them to create a building that would be iconic. And we've been working hand in hand, and after the first design advice request, they did the building, and they came to us, and they were presented this beautiful building with the shingles, the asphalt shingles. And I do just want to say that I was a little skeptical, because it was a little bit outside of my ken. And but I am part of the Jupiter, so we kept an open mind, and I asked them to do a mock-up, which is what they did here. And when my partner and I went over and took a look at it, we just took one look at it, and we realized that was the material for us. And what I saw in that material was basically an ordinary, excuse me, malarkey, an ordinary material that was used in an innovative way to create something absolutely extraordinary. And may I continue?
You can have another minute.
And that is the Jupiter Hotel in an essence, you know. And so this is really important to us. I know it could be considered a small issue, just a shingle, but it's really, this small detail is the thing that makes a difference between a building being mediocre and something being really extraordinary. And we have made our business, because we've been extraordinary, dealing with a very ordinary product, which has been our hotel. So we feel very strongly that this asphalt shingle is the thing that will set us apart. It's the thing that represents Portland in terms of being innovative and creative. It's that thing in Portland that we are not fearful to try things that are new and different. And Madam Fritz, if in terms of maintenance, that's what we do. We have to take care of our property. And the worst case scenario, and I think about these things because this is my business, this is my livelihood, my kids. The worst case scenario is I'm gonna have to re-roof that entire building. Can I do that? Yes, I can. That it is not such an overwhelming cost to do that.
Well, can I come in on that for a second?
Yes, you may.
Ms. Bunker, one of the things you kind of beat me to the punch on that point, because I'm going back to permanence, quality, and precedent. And the thing that's missing for me is that it assumes that the owner is going to allow this to deteriorate or go sideways, and then it becomes a community problem. And it seems to me that you, as the owner operator, have the same obligation as anybody that has any kind of siding to maintain it. And you're running a business, and it's a hotel. I'm guessing it would not be a selling point to come to a hotel where the siding is falling off or is discolored or whatever. So I appreciate you mentioning that, because ultimately the quality of any siding is the responsibility of the owner. And if there's an issue, that I assume you'd replace it or make the repairs necessary. And I think that's what you just said.
With Malarkey's support.
So the other thing I just wanted to observe, and thank you, Commissioner Fritz, for pointing out that we have the PowerPoint in our packet and it's easier for me to read. There's just one thing that strikes me. The examples that we're given of mostly residential properties are properties where I would say 90% of the surface is covered by this material. I'm not actually sure those are particularly helpful in this case, because unless I'm missing something in looking at your design, glass, yours is basically a very transparent building, and it looks like the glass face is 75% of the building, so, or over 50% of the building, and Carrie can correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like it comes close to being a glass box that has a checkerboard of siding. And it's one of the things I want to discuss with my colleagues and think about, but I might have a different view if the entire building was clad in a particular material, because then that is very ostentatious, that draws a lot of attention. But if I'm not mistaken, looking at this design, that the dominant exterior motif is glass.
I think Ms. Strickland would have to answer that question to give you an accurate.
Percentage, well, okay, we can come back, but anyway, I just want to note that, because the examples are residential buildings that the whole thing is clad in this material, but the
Absolutely,
design here is mostly glass, as far as I can tell.
And I do just want to say the last thing on the maintenance, just to come by that again, is that, in fact, I feel like as an owner of a business, as an owner of a hotel, we have a higher standard to keep that in good shape. It's not like an apartment building that can be run down. So my business will suffer if I have an ugly building. Likewise, if people think this building is so cool and they've never seen anything like this, and they're taking pictures of it and they're posting it on Instagram, my business succeeds. And when my business succeeds, the city of Portland succeeds, honestly.
We had Travel Portland in this morning making that point. Commissioner Novick?
Well, one thing is a timing issue. I think two of us are supposed to be at Tax Soup in 1 minute.
Let's see.
And also, I mean, I would kind of like to hear what Commissioner Saltzman thinks about this as the BDS commissioner. So I'm wondering
Hold
if
that
it's
thought for
possible
1
to
second.
close it's over. Yeah.
Council, how much more of the formal hearing do we have left?
Do we have any opponents?
Do we have opponents? Is anyone here raise their hand if they're an opponent? Okay, so after this panel, is that the last formal part?
That's right. And then council discussion and future scheduling. Yes.
Okay, so we can keep tax conservation waiting 2 minutes. Let's pause here. Thank you very much.
I just have one further
Yeah.
question. Is this product, you have multiple products at Malarkey, right? Is this the
Correct.
top of the line?
Yes, as
Does
far as the asphalt, laminated shingle, absolutely, yes.
Does it have a name?
Legacy.
Legacy?
So thank you. We're going to excuse you for one moment, and we're going to have council discussion for a moment. So we need 3 votes to move either way. Commissioner Novick has indicated that we're all set, thanks. He would benefit from having the feedback of one of our colleagues. For that colleague to offer an opinion, he'll have to review the transcript of the proceeding, which can be done quickly, and then weigh in. And Commissioner Novick, my view generally is having more of us engage this is better, because each of us brings a unique perspective, and so that's perfectly reasonable. Let me make sure it's feasible. So we have a record. I'm going to give, there's no opponent, so I do have one question for Carrie Strickland after we're done, and we're going to close the record for now.
I think the applicant gets 5 more minutes if they want to.
Yeah, so Steve, can we do 5 minutes just so we can close the record?
So the record is actually already closed. It's an on-the-record hearing, so we just have to continue the hearing, and they can still come back. They're supposed to just be speaking about no new evidence anyway.
Okay, that's
so,
fine.
Yeah.
Carrie, can you say whatever you want to say in 2 minutes?
If she might want to wait and do the 5 minutes in front of everybody.
Yeah, you have that option too.
I mean, I think, again, we all feel very strongly that this is the right decision. I think we're all really excited about it and feel with owner support and manufacturer support that this is what's going to make this project special.
So I made a lot of notes, and I have the framework for my decision and the conversation with my colleagues. The question now is, when could we continue this hearing, Carla, for the purpose of having at least one more colleague? And where we would extend 5 minutes to Ms. Strickland to close, and then we would have our discussion.
We had, the date we had settled on earlier,
So
was
we
that?
can, I think we can continue till tomorrow for the purpose of council making a tentative decision.
Well,
and
the
then
problem
they will
tomorrow is we just grafted yet another thing on tomorrow, and we're probably now going from 2 to 5
30 already, so.
on 2:30. So
So if I might make a suggestion to the applicant, I hear you said that they were not willing to extend the timing. But if, it sounds like you're not getting a direct no at this point.
Right.
So if you might be willing to extend it so that we could have maybe not only Commissioner Saltzman, but also Mayor Hales back, because he has a lot of thoughts about planning stuff. I think it's certainly possible that we might be able to get.
we might actually be able to stay within the deadline if, the question, I guess, for Carla is, do we have an available slot next week?
Sure, the 15th is open for the morning, 9:45.
Okay, so you may or may not be able to answer that now. Would you like us to put a soft hold on 9:45 on the 15th? I'm hearing nodding all around. So colleagues, is that acceptable? So we'll put it down as a time certain
Is
at 9.
everybody there?
Yes, everybody's in.
Okay, we'll put it as a time certain at 9:45. The ex parte rules still apply, so there can be no contact with any commissioner about the substance of this. We will encourage Mayor Hales and Commissioner Saltzman to review the record. That way they can participate fully. The hearing the only formal part of the hearing left is that the applicant will be given a 5-minute rebuttal. So you will have 5 minutes to say whatever you'd like. Then we will deliberate and decide where we are at that point. Does that make sense? Council, did I get that half right?
Yes. Yeah. So yes, that is right.
So I'm going to continue this hearing until 9:45, time certain, Wednesday, the 15th of June. And thank you all for joining us this afternoon for an interesting discussion. Colleagues, we'll take this up next week.
If I might, just before you gavel out, I don't know if our friends from Malarkey are going to be here next week, so I just wanted to say on the record that my independent analysis says that you do a fantastic job with your products. And so I just wanted to let you know that I'm very proud that you're a Portland company and that you are providing such good service. Thank you.
And this is not an ex parte disclosure, but a couple years ago, I had the honor of going to see their manufacturing plant, which I think they would be happy to have all of us come visit. And it is actually kind of cool to watch soup to nuts, how their product is made. And we appreciate that you purchase methane gas from us. With that, we're finished for today.